Mesoras HaTorah, the Mesorah of Torah, does not come through Yedias HaTorah, knowledge of Torah. The Mesorah doesn't come through the knowledge of Torah. It comes through the relationship with the person who's teaching you. Whether it's Rebbe or parent, that relationship with you is why they want to stay with the Mesorah. In the course of my life, many, many times, I've been working with people who barely stayed from. A tiny little chut held them to the basics of Yiddishkeit. They felt hurt, they felt they'd been abused, they had their struggles, and they were hanging on by a tiny thread. In the course of the therapy, it was frequent that such people would report and tell me stories about their horrible school experiences, about what they went through, and what they experienced, and how bad it was. They would tell me all their stories. When they finished telling me their stories, I've asked thousands of people this question, and I get the same answer. It's astonishing, but it teaches us so much about Mesorah of Torah. Because I asked these people, I want to ask you a question. Was there ever one Rebbe or teacher who made a difference in your life? One, just one, who made a difference. Every single kid, oh yes, every young person, they suddenly beam, and they tell me about their 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Cohen. Oh, Mrs. Cohen, you can't imagine. Or they tell me about this Rebbe who just looked away from everything in 7th grade. They all have one teacher or Rebbe that they claim is the reason I'm from at all today. Everyone. Now listen to this. I then lean into this with the kids, the young people, the young adults, and I say, can I ask you a question? Don't get scared when I ask you this question. But can you remember one thing that person taught you? Can you tell me one thing they taught you? You're telling me you're from today because of that person. The Mesorah you have came from that person. They kept you from. Can you tell me one thing they taught you? And no one ever remembers. It's incredible. They're completely blank. It's astonishing. The reason they're from is because of that person, but I don't remember one thing they ever taught me. Because Mesorah doesn't come through Yedias HaTorah. We have to accept this. We have to realize this. It's not about knowledge. Mesorah comes through relationship, because a person feels loved and wanted. And if they feel loved and wanted, they will stay with us. So that's the power of what a mechanech, what a teacher, what a rebbe, and what a parent can do, is we give the child this feeling, you're wanted in my life. That's where Mesorah comes from. That's why people they will stay within our Mesorah, because they feel someone cared about me and wanted me. Not scared me into feeling I'm about to be thrown out. But on the contrary, conveyed to me despite whatever I would do wrong, they loved me anyway. And accepted me. I once got a letter from a 16-year-old girl who had gone off and struggled. She was finding her way back. And she wrote a beautiful letter to one of her teachers. And the letter stated that the reason she's from and came back was because of this teacher. This one teacher. And she said, I have the letter. It was an amazing letter. She said, I drove you more crazy than I ever drove any other teacher. She had ADD. And she drove this poor woman crazy. And she says in the letter, and you never made me feel I'm a bad person. You made me feel I have a challenge, but you never made me feel I'm bad because I have a challenge. And she finishes the letter saying, I have the letter, it's so heartwarming. The 16-year-old girl finishes the letter. I hope one day I will be a teacher too, like you. In the new wave of chinuch and parenting of our children, this is how we grab them. This is how we keep kids close to us. On the contrary, if we would understand, can I say a personal story? My wife and I, you'll see if you read the book, we had our challenges. We're quite clear and open about it. We had learning disabled children. And aside from all the professional work I did, our kids probably were our greatest teachers. Yes? Probably. One time, I was with one of my children, our children, in Eretz Yisrael, and I thought she turned a corner. She was 17. I thought, it was early, she hadn't, but I thought she turned a corner. I spent Shabbos in Sfat together with her. You know the magic of Sfat? You go to Sfat and all the magic happens. And we had a beautiful Shabbos, and she enjoyed it. And I remember staying up all night. I called my wife, just to tell her it was wonderful. We had this great Shabbos, and maybe she's changing, and we're going to get her back. And I went to sleep. I got up at daven in the morning, and then I got in the car to drive to Yerushalayim with her. And as I say, the best way I know how to describe it is she got into the car dressed like she thought it was a swimming pool, not a car. You understand what I mean? And then the heavy metal turned on. And we drove out of Sfat. We went Derech HaBikah in those days. So we went to Bet Shan. And by the time we got to Bet Shan, I was in so much pain, I couldn't cope anymore. And I felt so lost. And I had no idea what to do. I couldn't bear being in the car with my own daughter. It was so miserable. Heavy metal, the unclothing. Say clothing, the unclothing. We got to Bet Shan. I stopped the car. I threw the door open, and I crossed the street, and I walked down into the Jordan Valley to talk to God, because I was so lost. And I went down into the valley where I couldn't see anything, and I cried. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried. And I talked to Hashem. And I said, Hashem, help me here. I'm trying. I'm really trying. Can you help me out? Because I'm so lost. I don't know what to do. Please help me. And the Kadosh Baruch Hu answered me and put the following words in my head. And these words formed the basis of everything my wife and I did afterwards. Everything we built on. Everything we imagined and envisioned about how to reach children came at that moment. And the words he put into my head were these words. Defy me more than I can love you. You will fail. Defy me. Be defiant. Fight me. See if you can defy me, my daughter, more than my capacity to love you, because you can't. And when you realize that, you'll come back. It was such a gift. It was such a gift from Shemayim. And I got back in that car with this. I didn't tell her, but I acted that way. And by the time she was a year or so later and got married, she was already Shomer Shabbos again. And she married from. I share this with you honestly and humbly because of the Yesod these words capture. Defy me more than I can love you. You will fail. For some reason, in this generation, our kids are defying us. They're fighting back against us. They're trying to reject us. And maybe it's some big, grandiose, celestial test. I don't know. But I know that the refuah through this is by me expanding myself to love her more than her defiance. And in fact, it turns out, listen to this, a child will heal better through their defiance than through their compliance. When they comply with what we're asking them to do, they don't know if we really love them unconditionally. They're just complying. How do they know? When they defy us and we come back unconditionally loving them, they know it's real. So when our kids fight back at us and we push back with love, with kindness, again with structure, not with liberalism. I don't hold of this whole liberal rubbish, this idiotic liberal agenda that just destroys families. That's not what we do. We offer structure, we offer rules, we offer hadracha and direction, but we do it with love. And when they defy us, we love them more. And when we love them more, they deeply know when it's through defiance, then they can really feel and know that we love them. And then they want to stay with us. And that's how we build attachments.
There's a lot more that we want to touch on. I really, again, suggest you read the book. But there are a lot of young parents here, so I just want to touch on one issue. My kids, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. When do I start, let's call them, what would be red flags that we should, of course we always have to try to be the best parents we can. But like you mentioned this afternoon, many of them are here. We're all more or less most of the time. When do we see that there's something here that demands something more from me? Okay. That's just one. And the other thing is that people want to know is sometimes it's clear, it's something diagnosed correctly or incorrectly. No, his secrets. Then what do I do? Right? Just for younger parents or even older parents, but like, what am I supposed to start noticing?
Okay, so I'd like to answer this question. I could go through a list of 24 red flags. That's not for now. We're not doing it. It's just not appropriate. But I'd like to say one klal to leave you with that could be extremely helpful for the young parents. In days gone by, when we parent our kids, take the bedtime issue. And you say it's bedtime and they fight you and you force them and you push them and you take them to bed, you take their hand, you walk them up and you actually put them to bed. You'll notice your kids can be very upset. They're very angry with you. That's not a loving moment sometimes when you have to put them to bed and force them into the bedroom and they don't feel very good about it. And you notice there's like a disconnect from you tonight which worries you. However, tomorrow morning, when you see them, everyone's bright smiles and they lean into you for a hug immediately and everything's normal. So when they disconnect from you the night before because they're upset with you, that's called parenting. Can we embrace that? That's called parenting. They're not always going to be happy with you, and sometimes they're going to be moody and upset. But if tomorrow morning, when you greet them, they're happy, and they're with you, and they give you a smile, and they give you a hug, and they give you a kiss before they go to school, and everything's fine, that is called parenting. That's what it looks like. Here's what you have to be worried about, and seek help. When you see that you put them to bed and they have that disconnect for whatever consequence you gave them for something they'd done that they needed a consequence, and they disconnect from you, and they seem resentful, and then you notice tomorrow it's continuing. And you see when they come home, they go straight back to their room, and they start isolating from you. That's a raya, it's a proof, as far as I'm concerned, that something more serious is going on, and it wasn't about what you did. There's something else happening and you should seek help. In this day and age, just like the connection is everything, similarly, disconnection teaches us everything. If we see our kids isolating, disconnecting, not wanting to connect and talk to us, and we're losing them, well, then you need to seek help. You need to seek help. That's, to me, the biggest red flag, because the best opportunity you have to believe you're going to be successful with your parenting is your relationship with your child. You always, always work the relationship. So if you discover you're losing the relationship, you have this eerie sense that she or he is isolating, disconnecting, not talking to me, running to their room, disappearing from the Shabbos table. They're moving into like a private sense of their lives. That's a huge red flag, as far as I'm concerned. And sorry, here, it needs help. You need help. That's probably the biggest red flag in this day and age that you will notice is the disconnect. Because everything else is called parenting. Kids fighting us, arguing with us, debating us. If tomorrow morning they're fine, trust me, that's what parenting looks like in this day and age. There's nothing wrong with that. That's normal. But if you feel the disconnect, seek help. Seek help.
Thank you.